I love the Dungeon of Black Company. This man, he's a scumbag, but goddamn, when he's able by episode 2 to unionize a bunch of worker ants, and those worker ants are pretty much a threat to be taken seriously, as they're pretty much like the size of a giant dog by the looks of it. The queen of the ants ends up falling in love with you because she's impressed that you tamed a dragon, and your goal in this show is to basically take down the current leadership and take it over for yourself. What they've done, I think, really well is, unlike a lot of shows where the main character is arguably a pretty shitty person on a personal level, what they've done is they've made the leadership on the actual company side equally as shitty, just less creative with how they are shitty to people. Where the general leadership is, we're going to work you to the bone, we're going to make you, if your partner's out sick, you're going to cover a shift. The entire leadership of this division is absolutely chaos and deserves to be overthrown. But when you look at Kinji, our main character, this man is completely fine with emotionally manipulating anyone. He looks at what he did last week, being like, the only reason our profits and charts are good is because of my leadership. Not even acknowledging the fact that should he have continued, they all would have ended up dead, worked to the bone, the exact same way that he's currently being worked to the bone. So rather than having a situation where you have a shitty character trying to screw over good people, the good people are pretty much the side cast and the general workers, but no matter what leadership, if we look at our main character or the current one in charge, they're both screwing the little man. So in return, we don't take it as, oh, when he succeeds, this is an author writing it as we need to root for a villain. No, we're just saying, wow, the world sucks, huh? You know, the shitty people end up getting power. So when bad things do happen to Kinji, like his face gets implanted into a wall or he's about to get killed, you kind of laugh and say he probably deserves it. It's one of those rare cases where, whether good or bad things happen to our main man, it's entertaining and you don't feel cheated in the slightest. This show is incredible. I am loving it. Without a doubt, my favorite comedy anime of the season. There's still a few shows that I'm going to be checking out and reviewing, but based on the types of shows, I can definitely say that this, seemingly based on the 2 episodes, will probably end up being my favorite comedy by the end. A lot can happen, but I think given the fact that in these 2 episodes, I feel like we've almost seen 2 seasons worth of content, in the way that a lot of times when a show like this happens, they have their initial gimmick. And in the case of, say, episode 1, that would be he brainwashed people. And then maybe by the midway point, they break out of that brainwashing, and then maybe we get the worker ant storyline for the remainder. But the fact that Dungeon of Black Company is confident enough to use, in a lot of cases, a couple of novels worth of content for those run-of-the-mill light novel authors or manga authors, right? And saying, no, we're going to have a lot of shenanigans where this man's going to pull schemes that will fail and succeed, and you never know where it's truly going to go next. I mean, the labor force in this show is pretty shit. The fact that this man had to save his partner after becoming a hentai protagonist, and rather than having the cute anime girl being felt up by a tentacle monster, it is Wannabe and his dinosaur-looking face. And the fact that, even though it may not have been the best move, the fact that he saved his friend and his worker here, you know, his companion, by pouring in a bunch of shit into this creature's mouth, and he got punished because he wasted company and materials. The company very much values the items more so than the labor force, and as much as I'd love to say, oh yes, that's why we need to root on Kinji, he'll be much better, I truly feel like he might end up being worse. Obviously, he would end up better because, well, he'd be back to where he was before getting isekai'd. He would be living luxury. But yeah, I mean, it's nice to see a character fall on his face as much as him while still, you know, wanting to root him on off and on because his voice actor is confident enough that it makes you feel like, yeah, you know what, let's see where he's gonna go from here. The animation, the art design is so well done. I mean, before we even jump into that, I can't be the only one who's blown away by the opening song. I mean, the ending song's great too, but the opening song has such a smooth bop to it that it's just like this funky beat that really is like, you can't compare it to anything this season. I really enjoyed it, and the ending, like I said, is also really amazing as well. But I have to say that the worker ant design, both when they had 3D models of them or just 2D drawings, it was blended so seamlessly, and I really enjoyed the almost Borderlands aesthetic that they used, because it almost felt cel-shaded in a lot of ways. It wasn't, but the way that they only went with a 2-tone design, you know, a light gray and then a closer to a black color, and the way they were blending with the caves and things like that, there's a lot of loose line work, so it didn't necessarily feel like a gross, either drawn or animated in 3D model. it felt like it perfectly blended into their environment, and I really enjoyed looking at worker ants, which is something I didn't think I was going to say in 2021, but here we are. I think the Dungeon of Black Company, despite having an awesome name drop at the end of the episode, is a show that has a lot of cards up its sleeves, and I think it's pretty confident in that fact. There's always the risk that should you get more than 12 episodes, do you really feel that compelled to see more and more shenanigans? But as it stands, the characters are all varied enough. You know, we get introduced to a man this episode who pretty much was trying to be a hotshot up until, well, pretty much everything hit the fan. So everyone is kind of like getting reluctantly roped into our main character's plans, whether they like it or not, and everyone's gonna feel scummy about what they're doing, other than Kinji and probably Rim, because Rim, well, you know, she's just in it for the food. And actually, I guess any monsters that follow him will probably like what he's doing unless they're on the short end of the stick. I do have to say, though, I was surprised with the Queen turn of events because I thought the Queen was going to get killed. Like, I thought it was going to be an usurper situation where he takes over the throne. Instead, no, just completely harem protagonist level love eyes. I'm like, okay, Dungeon of Black Company has no chill. And given the fact that this is a man who probably, you know, is gonna be a-okay with a bunch of females, like, flustering over him, even if they are ants, in the case of this, I think it'll be interesting to see how he navigates his ongoing harem that will probably continue to grow as, you know, the monsters come forward. I mean, if you really look at it, given how the general worker ant looked at him, you could probably already argue he has a harem of ants, which is not what he necessarily wants, but, you know, that's where we're at in the cards that have been dealt. I mean, obviously, like, his first mission would probably be to go to the surface and overthrow people, but if the man's smart, he'll probably build his monster and alliances first, but given the fact that this is Kinji, and he didn't take into consideration the memory manipulation rod was running out of juice and didn't check it over, I wouldn't be shocked if next week comes in and he launches an assault to the surface and then immediately get his ass handed to him, or he succeeds and something else happens. I am very curious because I think there's just a lot of potential with this character really succeeding before falling on his face, but there's an equal chance of him immediately falling on his face before even getting a step forward. And should he actually succeed in taking over the company, I kind of feel like what happened with the worker ants is going to happen to him. People are going to rise up unless he somehow controls their memories, but I guess we'll see. I just think there's a lot of potential given the fact that it is a monster world. There's so many varied creatures and ideas and beliefs, right? I mean, the fact that, you know, a food that he really enjoys is considered like the shitty food that he can buy for cheap. There's just a lot of really interesting world, character, and I just think ideas that could just really flourish this series into being more than just an asshole comedy. And I guess we'll see. Right now, I'm really excited. The opening definitely gives you a good indication of the varied personalities, and I really think this show is only going to be a steady climb going up. I'm not saying it'll end up being a masterpiece, but I definitely think it'll be a damn great to an amazing show by the time it's wrapped up. I absolutely love this show. It is hilarious. It is ridiculous. The characters are incredible. And the jokes kind of just write themselves, and rather than just going with the most basic of designs for the type of story it is, I'm happy to say over these 2 episodes, they've all been pretty original, especially given the premise and the story structure so far. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think, and where do you think it's going to go next week? Never could have predicted this unless you read the source material, so let me know your speculations down below. Drop a like to help promote the video, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.